Hey, how you doing? Nick, Digilio, that's me. How are you? Good to see you. What? Oh, good. Hey, thanks for checking out my YouTube channel. I got hundreds of videos here. Check them out. They're movie reviews and stories, all kinds of stuff. Check them out. Share, like, respond, talk, all that shit. Check out my podcast, the Nick D Podcast, which is available on RadioMisfits.com at the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. It's also available everywhere you get your podcasts at Apple and Amazon, Spotify, all of them. You can Google the Nick D Podcast. It pops up. New episodes every Thursday. I just invented a new day. I'm a fucking moron. Tuesday and Friday. Those are the new episodes every week. Launching a new podcast in January called That Show Hasn't Been Funny in Years, an SNL podcast, and it's all about how much I love SNL, and it'll be weekly, and it'll drop on, when does it drop? Thursdays. That's right, Thursdays, starting in January. I should probably know that. January 12th will be the first episode of That Show Hasn't Been Funny in Years. All right, anyway. So, Avatar 2, The Way of Water, is out now. And it sucks ass. It's terrible. It's awful. It is a piece of shit. I do not understand people's fascination with these Avatar movies. I especially don't understand, it took him, what did it take him? 15, 14 years between, when did the first one come out? 2009 and 20, took him, what did it take him, 20 years to make? Whatever. I especially don't understand people who saw the first Avatar, didn't like it, don't remember it, didn't think anything of it, who are like, oh yeah, I think I'll go back and see this one. What do you owe Cameron money? What? Why? Or people who don't like Avatar. Avatar was so stupid. But when I see this new one, what do you mean when you see this new one? Why are you going to see it? I don't understand I guess I should watch the first one. Because I completely forgot about it. I guess I'll have to watch it before I see this. Why are you going to see the second one? The first one's a piece of shit. Either you don't like it, which you admitted, or you don't remember it because it was unmemorable, or you just don't care, but yet you're going to see it again. What the fuck is wrong with you people? Is there some sort of Avatar hypnotism thing that's happening in the world that I'm not aware of, where people are hypnotized to believe that Avatar was good, even though they actually didn't like it or they don't remember it and they will go see the new one? What the fuck is wrong with you people? I can't tell you how many times I've seen on the internet, like, yeah, the first one sucked, but I'll go see the second one. Why? What is wrong with you? Anyway, Avatar: The Way of Water is a terrible movie. It's not even a fucking movie. I'm not going to go into the plot. It's a waste of my fucking time, just like I wasted 3 hours and 12 minutes of my life that I will never get back watching that hunk of shit, okay? But I will say this. It's astonishing to me that this is considered a movie. It's not a fucking movie. And if James Cameron and everybody, James Cameron's done this, he's done that, and look what he did here, and look what he did there. I will tell you, because this video is about how fucking overrated and how not good James Cameron is. When you think about it, okay? He is, you know what he is? At his core, when you really think about it, the fucking guy's a hack. He is a hack. He's not a good storyteller. He clearly doesn't get real emotion in any of his movies. He tries like a motherfucker, but he never really does. And yes, you know what he is? He is a hack who latches on to technology on its cutting edge and embraces it and spends a ton of money. He's a multi-billionaire who is able to spend his money on technology. He is not a good filmmaker. He is a rich dickhead, an egotistical maniac billionaire. I guess that's why everybody likes him, because that's the thing, I guess, now. That's the thing. That's who we talk about. That's who we vote for. Jag-off billionaires. They're in the news every day. They buy all the things. They do everything. I mean, that's the thing. I guess if you're a billionaire jag-off, no matter what you do, no matter how fucking stupid and inept and idiotic it is, people will embrace it. I guess that's the world we live in. We voted for one, turned him into a fucking president. So, Anyway, I guess that's the thing. If you're a billionaire, egotistical jagoff, you can do whatever you want, no matter how shitty it is, and people will blindly follow you and spend their money or vote for you. I guess that's what it is. Because he's certainly not a very good filmmaker in that regard. He's not a good storyteller. The emotional stuff in his movie, although he tries like a motherfucker, never really works. And Avatar, the original Avatar, is just so many people have said before, it's like a regurgitated, dumb, watered down version of Pocahontas. It is Dances with Wolves all over again. There's not an original moment in that screenplay, which I maintain still to this day was written by drunk monkeys. Not even sober monkeys could write a screenplay that goddamn stupid. In the new movie, they've populated the room with new and even more and even drunker monkeys for the new movie to write the screenplay. But the new movie, it's not, I even hesitate to use the word movie, and everybody's like, oh, he's on the cusp, he's the future of cinema, the technology is amazing, the motion smoothing and the incredible per frame, seconds per frame, and the 3D and the technology and the sound and the cinematic experience. Not a fucking cinematic experience. There's nothing cinematic about the new Avatar movie. It's not cinema. It's got the soul of a fucking theme park ride, and it's got the integrity of a video game. That's what it is. It's not cinema. This is not film. This is not cinematic art. It's a goddamn video game stuck in a goddamn theme park. That's what you're doing. You're not going to see a movie. You're not going to see a work of cinema. You're paying money to see a fucking simulated video game in a goddamn theme park. That's what you're seeing. The theme park ride of Avatar is what the movie is. I mean, I haven't been to the theme park. I don't give a shit about the theme park. But the kind of payoff that you get by going on the Avatar ride at Disney or wherever the fuck it is, that's essentially what Cameron wants. There's nothing emotional about either of these fucking movies, even though they try to push the emotion with the most ridiculous characters and the most one-dimensional situations and fucking acting that you'll ever see. And the simple message, okay, it's, like everybody's like, well, yes, but it's, it's pro-nature and it's anti-this and it's blah, blah, blah. Get the fuck out of here. There are so many other ways. I would rather see the old commercials with the crying Native American standing on the side of the road. I would rather watch that for 3 hours, that commercial where people litter and then the crying Native American comes out and the tear comes down. I would rather watch that commercial over and over and over and over and over again for 3 hours and 12 minutes. I'd get the message, and cinematically, it's much more interesting than fucking Avatar. It's soulless, no integrity. It's the most vulgar and crass display of money spending ever on nothing. It is just it's ridiculous. And it's got the visuals are unnatural. The motion smoothing makes it doesn't look cinematic in any way. And in Way of the Water, or whatever the fuck it's called, the new one, there are shots and moments within each scene that are inconsistent. One looks a little more film-like, and one looks a little blurry, and then the next moment you're in a fucking video game. Or as my good friend Colin Suter described it, it's like watching a movie at a Best Buy. That's exactly what it is. It's either you're watching it at a Best Buy, it's a soulless video game, or it has no integrity and it's a goddamn theme park ride. It is certainly not cinema. And if that's the future of cinema, I don't want any part of it. I don't want any fucking part of it. I would rather watch found footage movies. They have more integrity, more visual style, and more soul than this soulless piece of fucking shit made. And it's not that I don't like big budget special effects, driven adventure movies. Because I have, and I've loved them in the past. And there is a way of making big FX-driven spectacles that spend millions of dollars and do incredible CGI and special effects and use the technology, the modern technology, to actually tell a real story, to actually have emotion behind it. Denis Villeneuve is the guy that I first go to. Fucking Dune. You watch Dune. Dune is a movie that uses modern technology and special effects, makes it a very big cinematic experience that you should see on the big screen, uses computers, uses technology, different uses of sound, everything that you could possibly use in the 21st century, now, and uses it in a way to actually tell a story with real characters, real situations. You care about it. I was emotional. I cried during it. Guys like Denis Villeneuve, who did the Blade Runner sequel, and then guys like George Miller, for Christ's sake. George Miller is able to take special effects, computer stuff, doesn't use it a ton, but make a big action, big budget action spectacle and still make it full of heart and full of story and full of characters that you need. Peter Jackson, he made the goddamn Lord of the Rings movies. The Lord of the Rings movies pushed the technology even more than Jim Cameron did at a certain time. Peter Jackson was down in New Zealand, was inventing new cinematic technology and FX, but doing it in a way where he did not take away the soul of film, did not take away the soul of cinema, and told a story that he actually cared about, with three-dimensional characters, on a journey that was emotional and exciting and suspenseful, and your heart was involved. None of that happens in the Jim Cameron movies. Nothing. It is soulless, it is heartless, it is gutless. It's all, look at the technology that the egotistical billionaire spent money on. Even fucking Spielberg, who I'm not a huge fan of. Spielberg obviously can make big budget, effects-driven movies where you get your heart involved and you get excited and you care, and there are actually three-dimensional things happening on screen. Spielberg, who I've ripped apart in the past, and one of the guys who was one of the kings of technology and being on the cusp of it and using it is Robert fucking Zemeckis. Robert Zemeckis is a real filmmaker. He's a guy who writes movies and directs movies where you care about the characters. And this is a guy who, before fucking Jim Cameron came along, Robert Zemeckis was doing shit with technology and with effects and moving, the technology forward and doing it in a way where he could apply it to actual cinema. Like, Robert Zemeckis' movies are actually good. They're actually about three-dimensional characters. You care what's going on. He uses the technology brilliantly in terms of just using it, computer stuff, and doing it brilliantly, but turning it into cinema, something with a soul, actual film. Now, he did get sidetracked for a few years doing the motion capture animated films that he did for a little bit, and but he was doing that. He was playing around. But when he came back, he made a movie called Flight with Denzel Washington. So as like soulless and experimental and FX driven as stuff like The Christmas Carol and Polar Express was, when he came back with Flight. Flight is a movie that Jim Cameron could never make in his motherfucking dreams. He could never even attempt to make a movie that is even 1/8 as interesting and as soulful and as heartfelt and as brilliant as Flight. Jim Cameron, and here's the deal, Jim Cameron's not that good. And that's what I'm here to tell you. So the new Avatar movie is soulless. It's a fucking video game. It's a theme park ride. Enjoy it. And all you people who somehow are like, yeah, I didn't like the first one, but I gotta go see the second one, you're idiots. You're idiots. And then oh, my kids want to see the new one. You know what? Take your kid to see something else. Oh, my kid, he loved the first one. He wanted to see the first. You know what? Drop your kid off. Your kid old enough? Good. Drop your fucking kid off. Jesus Christ. Like my kids, most of the people are like, my kids want to see it. It's terrible. The first Avatar movie is terrible, but my kids want to see it. Good. Drop your kids off at the fucking mall. Go do something else for 3.5 hours. Or you hated the movie, or you want to teach your kids about good movies. Don't take them to see Avatar. Fucking take them to see something else. So Jim Cameron, that's what I'm here to say. I'm here to say this. Jim Cameron is an overrated fucking hack who has made a few really good movies, never made a great film. Never, ever, ever, ever made a great film. Ever. And he's not nearly on the same level as the filmmakers that I mentioned, or action filmmakers who make better action movies than him. I already mentioned George Miller. George Miller's worst movie makes Jim Cameron's best movie. You know what I mean? He can't even, Jim Cameron's best fucking movie is not even a fucking third as even remotely good as the worst movie George Miller ever made. So, anyway, Jim Cameron, hack, here we go. Piranha 2, The Spawning. He got to start working with Roger Corman, as many great filmmakers do. And he got to start working in special effects, which is why he's fascinated with the technology. And to this day, he's able to, because he's got $1 trillion in his back pocket, he's able to spend a bunch of money on a bunch of technology, to fuck around with. And he does that. He's done shorts on it, and he's fascinated with water and underwater and this and that and all that shit. And, and he's subjected us to his fucking obsessions now for fucking 40 years, and I'm done with him. But anyway, his first movie he ever directed was Piranha 2, The Spawning, which, by the way, he's always talked about as the king of the sequels. Not nearly as good as the original Piranha. Joe Dante directed the original Piranha. Fuck off, Jim Cameron. He started out working on special effects. So here's the best thing that Jim Cameron ever did. No, here are the best things Jim Cameron ever did. The best thing he ever did was marry Catherine Bigelow. I mean, it wasn't the best thing for her. I'm sure she was miserable for the years that they were together. A positive that she was. But the best thing he ever did was marry Catherine Bigelow for a few reasons. One, because of the pull that this jagoff has, she was able to get a couple of movies made, namely Strange Days and Point Break. So during that time period, when they first met, when they were married, and when they were getting divorced, that's when those two movies came out. He got Point Break made for her. That's the best thing ever. The best credit that you could ever see in Jim Cameron's career is executive producer of Point Break. Best thing he ever did. The other great thing he did was he co-wrote the screenplay no, actually, he didn't co-write the screenplay. He has a story credit, co-writing credit, on Strange Days, which is Catherine Bigelow's movie. And so the best thing that Jim Cameron ever happened to Jim Cameron was marrying Catherine Bigelow. And it wasn't good for him, really, but it was great for her, not personally. But, like, she was seen by more people because she was married to this jagoff. And so the best creative stuff that he ever did was executive produce Point Break and co-write Strange Days. That's the best shit he's ever done. He's never even come close, because those movies are better than anything. Strange Days and Point Break are better than anything James Cameron's ever directed, and it's not even fucking close. Catherine Bigelow is a million times the filmmaker that Jim Cameron is or will ever fucking be, and it's a joke to compare the two, because Catherine Bigelow is in a whole different class and on a whole nother level than Jim Cameron. Not even close. I love the fact that in 2009, I mean, like in 2009, when the first Avatar was up for all the awards and director and this and all that shit, and the Hurt Locker knocked him out. You know, they were divorced by that point. And I just, I thought it was fantastic that Catherine Bigelow became the first woman to ever win an Oscar for Best Director. And I'm sure that pissed off Jim Cameron, considering, anyway, so she was the first director to win. First woman to win Best Director Oscar, and that was the same year that her ex-husband Jagoff Jim was nominated for Shitatar, and she won. And the Hurt Locker ended up winning the big awards and came out way on top, except for special effects, obviously, all the technical shit that Avatar won. But outside all the the awards that were about actual filmmaking, that were about cinema, Hurt Locker won, and I'm sure he was pissed about that. My ex-wife, goddammit. Not only is she my ex-wife, but she's a woman, and I'm a better filmmaker, and blah, blah. Fuck off, dude. Anyway, I also love that in the summer of 1991, when they were, together, Terminator 2 and Point Break came out. Point Break, much better movie than Terminator 2. Now, I know that there are people who go, oh, God, are you out of your mind? Point Break is 5,000 times better than Terminator 2. Not even in the same fucking league. Not even in the same league. Best thing he ever did. For real, besides executive produce and other people's movies that are better, but also that he also is responsible for that Evita or Elavita, the animated thing. That's the kind of shit that people are making. Anyway, Luc Besson is a guy. Luc Besson, you can thank Jim Cameron for the fact that people like Luc Besson and Luc Besson wannabes are making these soulless, stupid fucking action movies, because that's the direct spawn of Jim Cameron. But anyway, the best thing he ever did was he did matte paintings for Escape from New York. Jim Cameron, that the skyline shot of New York, when the helicopters are flying in to see New York, and that's a matte painting, a special effects matte painting. Jim Cameron painted some of those. The best thing he's ever done in his career was paint some of the FX matte paintings in Escape from New York. He's never done anything better than that. The Terminator, best movie he's ever made. That's in 1984. Has the only movie that he's ever made that really has a lot of heart and soul in it. He's not bogged down by any kind of fucking technology. He didn't have any money then. He had to scrape together the money then. This was before he became the egotistical jagoff that he is now with $1 trillion. He didn't have any money then. He was desperate to make the movie, and he would do anything to make it. And you can feel that when you're watching every frame of it. It's the only honest piece of filmmaking that Jim Cameron has ever done. The original Terminator. It's still the best movie he's ever made. Still the best movie he's ever made. Ever. The closest thing he's ever come to actually making a piece of film. Closest. Follows it up with Aliens, which is a solid action movie, but again, started to get into the technology, and again, started to be I can make a better movie than the original, and blah, blah, blah. And it was his second sequel. A lot of people forget about Piranha 2. But It's not as good as the first one. It's just not. It's too long. The motivation for the main character doesn't make any sense because he cut out all the stuff about Ripley losing her daughter. That's all cut out, and I guess that's not his fault because the studio was like, it's too long. Now he would leave it in. Now if he were to make Aliens now, it would be 7 hours long because he could get away with it because he's Jim Cameron. But Aliens, a lot of great action scenes in it. It's a good movie, very good movie, solid, entertaining. It's too long. It's not nearly as good as the original Alien, but it's good. All right. The Abyss. I think The Abyss is a very good movie. Again, it's a little too long. This started his obsession with technology, the liquid thing that he would use in T2 that emerged in The Abyss. And the whole getting emotion, really intense emotion from his actors and actresses, that began with The Abyss, and he would continue that in Titanic and stuff like that. And on the set, he was a nightmare. Just talked to Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio and talked with Ed Harris about what a fucking egotistical maniac nightmare he was on the set. The Abyss, which I still think is a solid movie, one of the better movies he's made, still not great. Still not as good as anything George Miller ever made. Still not as good as anything Catherine Bigelow's ever made. But solid and good. But still not great. And still not let's still not attribute the great Jim Cameron with any of these fucking movies, because The Abyss is good. It's a solid movie. It's a little too long. And he started to use the special effects stuff, and he used it kind of well. It didn't get out of control yet. But if you talk about read about what he was like on the set. That's the real Jim Cameron. All right. So The Abyss, good, not great. Again, Terminator 2. Everybody loves Terminator 2. I don't. I like it. I think it's really good. I think there are great things in it. I think politically it makes the most statement about the political times in 1991 when it was made. I think there are some really wonderful statements in it. There's no emotion to it. There's no heart. Nobody gives a shit about anything that happens. The wacky relations, at this point, Arnold Schwarzenegger was a superhero at this point, so he couldn't play the villain like he did in the first one. So that's where you got Robert Patrick, and you take the Abyss special effects, turn it into an LA cop. That's your villain, and then make Arnold Schwarzenegger lovable and cool, because at that time, Arnold Schwarzenegger was a megastar and he couldn't be a villain. So, again, compromising it, caring more about making someone look good or, pushing the special effects than actually telling a compelling story. So story-wise, who cares? Special effects-wise, good. Whatever. He took what he did in The Abyss and he pushed it up a little bit. But as far as heart and soul, it's not there. Nobody gave a fuck. You watch that movie to watch stuff blow up. And he does that well in Terminator 2. True Lies, bad movie. Bad movie. All the way around. Misogynistic, really stupid. Jamie Lee Curtis is wonderful in it. You got, again, great cast. There's a lot of these movies, he gets great casts in his movies. Aliens has a great cast, and that cast would be, a lot of those people in Aliens would be used better in a little movie called Near Dark. We won't even get into that. But True Lies is a bad movie. It's xenophobic. It's bad. Jingoistic, misogynistic, xenophobic. I can come up with all kinds of other adjectives to describe it. Other than just not very good. It's not good. Titanic, it took him 9 years to make, whatever, and everybody's like, oh, it's going to bomb, and of course he proved everybody wrong. This is again, everybody Jim Cameron proving everybody wrong. Everybody's trying to keep Jim Cameron down, man. He's going to prove everybody wrong, like he's a rebel. The guy's a fucking billionaire. He's not a rebel. Billionaires can't be rebels. Yeah, man, he's trying to keep Jim Cameron down, man. Titanic's the biggest movie ever. Fuck yeah. And then he wins the Academy Award. I'm the king of the world. Fuck off. He's such a dick. I actually back Titanic more than most people do. I just think it takes forever to get going. It's 3 hours long. It should have been an hour and a half. The first hour and a half is a fucking chore. You know why? Because it's about people trying to act like normal human beings with relationships, which Jim Cameron has no idea how to do. It's actually about love, and it tries to be about real characters doing real things and having real emotions, and Jim Cameron has no fucking idea how to do anything real. Nothing. Especially in the world of humans. No. So the first hour and a half is a fucking chore, but when that boat hits the iceberg, it's fantastic. Fantastic. So I'm a fan of Titanic. I don't think it's great. It did not deserve the Best Picture award. He is not the king of the world. It did not deserve to be the biggest movie ever made. The first hour and a half is a fucking chore because Jim Cameron had to work with human beings. The second half, pretty terrific because he's working with special effects and action. Okay? All right. And then Avatar. It took him, 15, 20 years or whatever, 12 years for Avatar to come out. Avatar, like I just said, it's gutless, it's soulless, it's Dances with Wolves, it's watered-down Pocahontas. It's a terrible, ridiculous, one-dimensional screenplay that seems to have been written by a bunch of drunk monkeys. The technology in the 3D, oh, that looks great, that's fantastic. And the future of that technology has been applied only to shit that is not cinematic. When you went to see Avatar, you're like, okay, because 3D was big at that time. And when you went to see Avatar, yes, absolutely, it's the best 3D ever up until that point. And visually, it was like, wow, this is really amazing. It looks great, and it's 3D and all that stuff. Hey, but guess where that technology went? It didn't go into making good movies. It went into theme park rides, and it went into video games. And that's what the new Avatar movie is. It's not a fucking movie. I've said it a million times. So if you look back at Jim Cameron's career, Piranha 2, I would take Piranha 2 over any of the Avatar movies. Piranha 2 sucked. Terminator, the best movie he's ever made. He has never made a movie better than the Terminator, and he never will. Aliens, solid movie, good movie, not as good as the original. The Abyss, good, but that's the movie where his ego and and the insanity started to get out of control. You can pinpoint from that moment. That was the moment where Jim Cameron was like, okay, like after the success of Aliens, that's when asshole Jim Cameron kicked in. T2, not nearly as good as the first one. Still a good, solid action movie. True Lies, not good on any level. The big action set pieces are dumb. It's a really bad movie. You go back and watch. If you've not seen True Lies since you've seen it when it first came out, and you were like, yeah, it's cool, it's got a lot of action, it's Arnold, it's Jamie Lee Curtis does a strip tease in it. Fucking go back and watch True Lies. It's a piece of shit. It is. Titanic, first half, torture, second half, good. Not a great movie by any stretch of the imagination. Certainly not human in any three-dimensional level. Avatar and Avatar 2, the end of cinema as we know it, and the beginning of the theme park ride as movie. So there you go. James Cameron is one of the most overrated, overpraised directors of all time. He's made some good movies. He's done some solid action movies. And even in these Avatar movies, the action scenes are ineptly done. They're not well done. The action is not well directed. It certainly doesn't seem like the same guy who made Terminator or Terminator 2 and cut those action scenes together. Doesn't seem like the same guy at all. The technology is completely taken over. The soul is completely gone. And the only time he was interesting his ideas were interesting was when they were directed by other people, namely Catherine Bigelow, who is, always will be, a much better filmmaker. And I emphasize the word filmmaker than Jim Cameron will ever fucking be. So I don't understand the hypnotic effect that the Avatar movies have over people. I don't understand people who acknowledge that they don't like the first one and they're going to see the second one. I don't get it. The Avatar movies fucking suck, and the new one is worse than the first one. It is not cinematic in any way, and if that's the future of cinema, I want no part of it. So fuck the new Avatar movie on every fucking level possible, and you're dumb if you didn't like the first one, and yet, I'm going to go see the second one. You're an idiot, you're a sucker, and Jim Cameron is going to laugh his ass off all the way to the bank. So, anyway, James Cameron, the most overrated hack in the history of cinema.